Remember when I said how Roy reminds me of a cheerleader? Well, point proven.
Pokemon Ranger, I choose you!
What's up my dear boys and girls, it's Ranger here and welcome to another review of Pokemon Horizons. This week's review of last week's episode is all about Roy and his Pokemon, but with a surprising teaser for Liko's future as well. So if you want to know more, then grab some popcorn, grab some cookies, and let's do it. With last week ending and basically Liko receiving a major confession from Dot, it's just natural for our girl to continue from there, with her nervously walking around Dot's room while her heart is pounding like crazy. And I know, there are quite a few people who already ship Liko and Dot, and this episode really emphasizes that shipping, especially when later down the road, she actually enters Dot's room while behaving like a nervous girlfriend who entered her lover's room for the very first time. Sadly, we have to intercept the Liko-Dot romance for an urgent matter. Fuecoco and Watchel still not getting along, no matter at which time of the day. While Liko witnesses all the chaos unfolding in front of her eyes, the ship's mechanic waifu Orla out of nowhere suggests to Liko to catch another Pokemon of her own, not only making a great suggestion, but with that she also finally released Liko from her endless loop of stagnation. Spoiler alert, thanks to the latest trailer, we already know which Pokemon Liko will get, but for the sake of enjoyment, I will not mention it here. Before we return back to Roy, we see Nidoking actually making a video with her saying that no matter if you prefer training only specific Pokemon or catching a lot of them, as soon as you bond with them, both methods are great. As soon as I heard that, there was only one thing coming into my mind. Shots fired, go! Speaking of dual protagonists, Roy still can't figure out how to solve the dispute between his two partners until he witnesses a training session between Cap and Charizard, and especially his birdie seems to be very curious. So, to relieve some stress, Roy decides to do a training battle with his Pokemon going up against the Cap himself, with obvious results. But some credit to Roy, he was able to make his Pokemon work as a unit for a short period of time, and it did look promising, but that short period of team spirit did not ease the tension between Fuecoco and Wattrel at all. Luckily, there's no time focusing on that problem since a storm is incoming, so therefore everyone is preparing for some turbulence. Everyone besides Roy, who didn't realize the incoming change in weather, and soon enough, he and his Pokemon got overwhelmed by the strong wind. Panicking at his Wattrel being blown away, Roy tries to save his Pokemon. By the way, Fuecoco with her hat, adorable! But even with his Pokemon in his arms, he just can't seem to move an inch thanks to the turbulence. The situation seems to get even worse with a piece of wood about to hit our boy, but suddenly Wattrel uses the weather to ride the wind current, and with a powerful spark, he saves his trainer. Surprised by this sudden power-up, Roy questions what just happened, and with the help of Dot's analysis, while Liko behaved like nervous girlfriend entering her lover's room for the very first time, Dot MP4, he figures it out, that the more height he gains, the more wind he can generate, aka the more power he gains. So the solution to the height problem, after some hard training, they perform some sort of cheerleader formation for Wattrel to gain the height needed, and from the faces of the other crew members, you can tell what they thought of that idea. But that strange idea seems to work, with their performance actually gaining enough momentum for Wattrel to properly perform his powerful move, and just for a split second, Cap was getting nervous, until he utilizes his tail to glide and dodge through the air. Badass! Resulting in another loss for his opponents. Despite the defeat, all participants are proud of their achievement, and the episode ends with Cap being very excited as a result of that battle, while basically teasing next week's episode. So that's it, and without any more hesitation, impression. Honestly, not really much to say about this episode. It was focused around very basic but also very enjoyable training, with Roy once again making some major steps in terms of both skills and relationship between his Pokemon. He seems to be less chaotic and more coordinated now, even before his so-called special move. But I'm glad that the anime showed that despite the progression he made, there's still a huge gap between his Pokemon and Friede's Pokemon in terms of abilities, which to be honest, makes Roy's victory from last week over Spinel even weirder, considering that Friede struggled with Spinel himself. Speaking of Friede's Pokemon, I really liked how they showcased not only another unique skill of Cap, aka using his tail to glide through the air, almost resembling flying, which not only makes Cap stand out more compared to his famous predecessor, but it also seems to be a nice tease to the next episode, which is all about Friede's first encounter with the unique Pikachu. Last but not least, despite the short but adorable display of Liko not being able to handle the Nidoking situation, the one thing I appreciate even more is that thanks to Orla, our female protagonist finally makes a significant step forward, with her now considering catching a second Pokemon, which at least in my opinion was a much needed addition, since Liko felt like stagnating for a long time now, and I'm just glad that despite the great progression of Roy, the anime at least seems to focus on Liko's development as well. So to sum it up, another great episode for Roy, but with some teasing in regards of both Friede's past and Liko's future. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. What is your opinion? Tell me, and just like always, see you guys in the comments down below.